essentially the main things that they are looking for are a practical experience that you can actually implement when you're joining the company. So yeah, that you can demonstrate that you are capable of working in the environment with the necessary coding skills that you have got. So but that also let me diverge a bit in a different direction in this conversation. So this in a way means that the grades are at a lower value as compared to the skills, but then uh, the grades are also considered very important in for a lot of companies. They look at the grades as well, right? So in a way that might also give an impression that one should focus less on grades and working more on projects, because I mean uh, you're considering your experience, you received an offer from Facebook based on the variety of experiences that you have had and the different projects that you have had. So what do you think uh, is the is the actual value of grades that the current education system provides? Just
Mm.
comment on the education system in general. Not to be too critical or anything about it, but generally, what are your views? What is wrong there? What can be improved? And
Yeah.
yeah,
So like the value of the grades on the education system overall, I mean, probably they showcase that someone is smart on something. I don't know if one engineer has good grades on the subjects that he did. Probably he has good knowledge of math and physics and so on. But maybe for for the professional environment, is it really the thing that we want to optimize for? Do we
hmm,
really want to optimize for okay someone that is really good on taking, I don't know, of getting some content in some lectures and writing that content on a piece of paper. And okay, he had some well-defined questions that these questions are most known, and he gave well-defined answers because the problems are most known. And then he showed that he was able to memorize something and write it in a paper. We are optimizing for this kind of intelligence and this kind of knowledge
hmm,
with
hmm,
the current grading system. And I believe there are several places that okay they would like to optimize for something else. They would like to optimize for some more practical abilities. It would be cool if this new worker, this new collaborator comes to the company and he's more well prepared to do work from day one, and you don't have to
yeah,
teach him anything. So one sign that you have with the grades is that okay maybe this person is able to learn anything that we can teach him because he has good grades.
hmm,
So probably he will learn it. But if we are able to optimize by design like this person, you are confident that this person can build something and can learn new
yeah,
things as it is stated by the things that this person built. And I believe probably the education system could try to optimize a little bit more to people's ability to build things and do things.
hmm,
And build things maybe might sound a lot like, okay, this is an engineer talking about only engineering, but it could be anything. It could be marketing. The marketing schools,
yeah,
they could optimize for their students to produce better marketing advertises or better
yeah,
marketing
yeah.
communications and not optimize on the grades that they have on some tests on during their courses.
Hmm.
So and yeah,
So essentially, the point that you're trying to make is that uh, the grades that you receive, they are actually testing you on how well you learn a piece of learn a few pieces of information, and then bring those together in a coherent way in an answer sheet. But essentially what the companies look for is a practical experience. So uh, so what according to you could be a way to uh, what according to you could be a way such that the grades actually highlight the practical experience? Could it be that the exams could be structured in a totally different way? Maybe there could be uh, programming assignments instead of exams. So, just a vague idea that I'm throwing around. What
Yeah,
according to you would be an ideal education system to?
yeah. I believe there are several universities in a few places doing sort of this already. I'm not coming with anything new here, but there
Yeah,
are several universities where students are evaluated based on projects that they have to deliver. And I believe that grade there, you can also be graded on this project. You can be
yeah, yeah,
graded, I don't know, 10 or 0. It, and this grade probably will actually mean something because, okay, you can talk about the project. What was the actual thing that you did? And then if you show me, okay, I built this thing and I got this grade, okay, interesting. I mean, sounds reasonable. You try to do something interesting that I can give more value to that number that I'm seeing. I can reason more about it. And besides, I'm also getting the context of the work that you have done. So I can try to figure out some actual skills that you developed in the process, which would be something that I wouldn't be able to figure out on a grade that is only based on an exam. Like I don't know the exact contents of the exam, and probably you won't describe to me the contents of the exam. Maybe it doesn't even make sense to for you to describe to me the contents of the exam. So I believe like one shift that would be cool if several, at least for the university education system, it would be cool if a few more universities did this change from exam based evaluations to project based evaluations, and the catch on this is that it shouldn't be a change where the student has 4 project courses at the same time that he or she is taking 3 or 4 theoretical courses, so that in total this student is taking 8 subjects, which is a lot of work,
yeah,
and maybe not that many students will be able to handle this without dealing with a lot of stress, and that's also not the purpose of overloading these people. So like if you have, I don't know, 4 project-based courses and 1 theoretical course, if you need to keep the theoretical courses at all, probably there are a few skills that maybe they
yeah.
are best taught by theoretical courses, and you need them. And so we shouldn't discard them at all. But something more mixed and probably more heavy on projects than heavy on theoretical courses, I believe it would be something cool.
Yeah. So, focusing, having a good mix of the theoretical and practical way would be a more better approach, and having the grading system such that it actually highlights your ability to work properly in an organization later on. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and so I'm just moving towards the education and learning part of things. So I know you to be someone who is also very quick at learning things, because I mean learning in general, whether it be programming or any new topic, or maybe just learning a new skill. For example, talking about calisthenics, you probably learned muscle up. You learned how to do a muscle up in like 2 weeks, if I'm not wrong. And so I want to know what your approach of learning a new skill is. What is the best way to approach a new skill? And that skill can be anything. Like, you can take programming as an example. You can even take playing, guitar or any musical instrument as an example, or muscle up. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. So I believe my approach now, if I really want to learn something new, I'll start doing it, whatever it is. If it's calisthenics, I I think the way that I approached it was okay. I know nothing. I I have 2 options. I mean, I can research everything that I want until I know enough so that I can start, or I
Yeah,
can just
yeah.
start doing something regardless of what it is. And the thing is,
Hmm.
as soon as you start doing something, you will feel the actual need to improve on parts of your knowledge that you don't know. You don't know. There's just a gap there that you don't know exactly how it feels now. And then you
Yeah.
you learn based on a problem that you actually have, and not on some theoretical thing that might happen at some point. So I believe my strategy now, when I really want to learn something, is okay. Let's start doing. So okay, that was the way that I started calisthenics. I had no idea of how to plan my workouts. I'm not very good at it as of now, but I can plan a workout. But I started, okay, I have no idea. Let's look for anything on the internet. Let's do the first thing that they tell me, and let's start doing from day one. And after you have something there, okay, now how do I iterate on it to make it better? How do I how do I improve my process? On how do I improve my workouts? What should I do? What kind of videos should I watch? What kind of books should I read? And where is the information that I need in order to become better on this process that I'm currently doing? So this would be one thing. The other thing would be, okay, I would like as of now to maybe to start invest in a couple of things, or to maybe to start a little bit to understand more a little bit. I would like to understand a little bit more about financial markets, and how, how you choose stocks. I don't know. I don't. Maybe I will never be able to do it properly. But I believe the best way to get
Uh-huh.
started is go ahead, whatever you have with you, buy your first stock, and whatever that is. And then you have some pressure to,
Oh.
okay, now I have some responsibility with it because I am compromised with the thing. I have to learn as fast as possible because I'm already in the game. And by having this pressure, and by taking the first step on whatever it is that you want to learn, I believe it's it's a good way to learn, and that's the way that I am trying to approach things recently. And
So yeah,
uh,
yeah, that's quite a an interesting way, I would say, because you just said that just make your first investment if you want to learn about stock markets without trying to spend too much time learning about all the details. The details can come later, right?
yeah, I mean, I believe like it doesn't have to be a blind investment. I don't know. There are several places giving some advice. I'm not saying for you to put all that you have in a single stock as your
Yeah,
first
yeah,
investment.
yeah.
But I'm saying there are several people giving advice out there. Look, read something that you think, okay, this looks kind of reasonable. Let's get started. Do it.
Mhm.
Because by doing this, this will push you to read more about the market and read more about things that are going on. And you will track that stock at least because you are compromised with it. So you would like to know whether it's going up or down. You would like to know what is happening.
Yeah,
And in this process, you will learn, and the need to learn will come from an actual need. That is, okay, I'm already into it. If
Mhm.
if I don't learn, I will actually lose my time or waste my money.
Yeah, yeah. That's quite interesting, and I mean, this kind of approach can be. What was the motivation to follow such an approach? I believe it would be more inspired from the way programming is done, right? Because, like, for example, consider the GitHub way of managing a project. So you first write your first piece of code, and then you make multiple iterations, and then maybe you get stuck there and try to find out solutions. So given a problem, you first try to uh, solve it in a way, or given a skill that you want to learn, you just get started based on the limited information that you have, and then you try to keep on learning more and more so you can make yourself better at that skill.
Yeah. So I believe maybe that will relate to something that I said in the very beginning. Like I believe overall I'm not very creative. That means I'm not very creative to choose, okay, what is the best way to learn something? I don't know. I don't know what kind of problem I'm going to face when I'm trying to learn this new thing. But if I start doing this thing, I will
Mhm.
start having actual problems. And then I don't have to be creative because I have an actual problem there. And
Yeah.
if I have an actual problem, I can learn how to solve it. And if I learn how to solve it, I can improve and move forward with whatever I'm doing. And then that will bring me to the next actual problem. And which probably I will, at some point I won't be able to solve it, and I will study about it. And I believe like a good part of the knowledge that I'm getting as a software engineer now is very much being driven on this way. So I have no clear direction of, okay, where exactly should I improve? I don't know. I have a general area that I would like to improve on, but I don't know which kind of content should I consume to improve on this. And then I am working. And then as I'm working, I'm facing some challenges and having to deal with some problems that I'm not very sure about what is a good way to solve it or what is the best way to solve it. And then I will read more to solve that challenge. And and I will try to learn as those things appear, as these challenges appear.
Yeah, interesting. So, taking this information that you have shared and then applying it to programming as a skill. So, you have been programming for 5 years more or less, and then you must have been stuck at variety of different problems in a variety of different ways as well, and you must have referred to a lot of different resources in general. So, what are the resources that you consume to learn more about programming and to be better at programming in general? Are they books or are they articles or,
Okay,
uh, yeah, what are the things that you consume?
I see. I believe like this is something that changes over time. When you are starting, you'll be consuming some kind of content. When you have already a little bit more experience, you'll be consuming another kind of content.
Yeah.
Maybe the best way to maybe in the beginning the best way to improve is reading lots of books. Maybe after you already have some experience, several of these books they have a lot of intersection between them. So maybe reading lots of books is not the most efficient way of improving. So I can say the things that I did. So the way I started, first it was very informal. So it was like, okay, I have this lecture. Now they are telling me a couple of things. They gave me some scripts and some notes that I could use to learn the concept that they were describing.
Mhm.
And that was it. Then you go ahead, you have some programming assignment, you do it, and you're improving. And at some point, after there was this informal step, and I realized, okay, I actually like this. I like this, and I would like to learn a little bit more. Then the next thing that I did was I actually read a book about Java. It was about the Java programming language itself.
Mhm.
So I read a book end to end, and okay, let's see. I mean, how is the syntax of the language? How do you describe loops? How do you describe conditional statements? And how do you describe any of the things that you would like to describe in this language? And actually, I realized during this process that almost all the languages they share the same constructs. So
Yeah.
almost all the languages they share conditional statements, they share control statements, they share
Mhm.
function definitions, they share class definitions. Most of them, they share lots of things. They share the concepts of global variables. They share the
Yeah.
concepts of closures, and you don't have to read all the books of all the programming languages to learn those things because once you have learned once that these concepts exist regardless of the language, then when you go and you change and you start to work on a different programming language, you just have to refer to, okay, what is, I mean, how do I write a while loop on this language itself? I know that this is the thing that I actually want to write. I don't know how
Yeah.
to write in, I don't know, Scala. I don't know how to write using Scala, but let's figure it out. Then
Mhm.
you look for this exact piece of content. And then with time and with the need of working on this new language, you will learn the language after all. And this will be based on the top of concepts that you learned before. So I wouldn't recommend you to every time that you want to learn a new programming language, you start a book from scratch. Maybe it's cool if you do that, if you do this for one language, or maybe
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never need to do this. So as you are evolving, that changes. So I guess right now there are a few programming books that I approach, and now the books that I approach are about concepts that I have zero familiarity with. So I literally know nothing. So for example, about systems programming, I know nothing about it. I have no idea of how to start. And
Okay.
I think one way of starting it, I mean, I can't even build something because I don't know what to build. Zero,
Okay. Mhm.
zero ground to start. And then I got a book and okay, this is my ground to start. And let's see, I'm reading this book to figure out, okay, what can be done, how things are done. And after this, if I read a second book before doing anything, probably I'm procrastinating then because now I have something that
Ah.
I could go out there and start building things and start getting actual experience on systems programming. So I guess my next step, once I finish this book, would be okay. Let's try to build some small applications now, and this would be what I would do on this new area that I have very little experience on. And now, like on the things that I'm currently working on, and which is most front end development and most React. So I have already read several articles, and what I'm finding very helpful at the point that I am now, I'm reading the documentation of the library, and probably this is something that you shouldn't do to start learning. Like
Yeah.
to start learning, you shouldn't be reading documentations of libraries. Maybe it's not the most efficient way, but it's very nice now to read the official documentation and see how things are implemented internally, how actually good and big frameworks are actually built, in which principles they are based. And if you want to tweak the performance of the framework that you are using, you need to know how it works. And then the place to get this knowledge is the best place is going to the actual documentation, sometimes even reading the code of how such feature is implemented. And and then I would say that good part of the things that I'm learning now are based on reading documentation and reading actual code that was written for someone and is doing something. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's not. I believe I'm not giving any straightforward advice of okay, I did these steps
Yeah.
and then I learned things. It's more like okay, that's somewhat of the process that I use it to, and this is somewhat the process that I'm using now.
Yeah. But then the person who wants to learn, he has to take the first step and he has to go on his own journey of learning, right?
Yeah,
So that in that sense, it's a very practical advice because then it also asks the other person to take the first step, take the action, and then discover the whole process on his own. But
yeah,
interesting that you also talk about you know consuming documentation and consuming all these different resources. But the thing that I find most interesting that you shared was that you call reading another book on top of one book that you have already read as procrastination. Right? I mean, it's quite interesting because then you don't need to feed yourself so much in information. You just need to take the information that you have, for example, from one article or one piece of information or resource, and then apply it, and then maybe you are stuck again, then you go to the new book. Not that okay, I need to finish this entire book.
yeah.
uh,
So another
yeah.
thing, for example, let's say for the people aspiring to be data scientists, you can read several articles and learn all the new stuff and try to learn at least all the new stuff that people are doing out there. Cool. But if you try to read actually one article and you try to replicate it, you learn so much in this process of just trying to replicate the results that those people had on this article that it will be
Yeah. Yeah.
way more valuable than reading another five of those. And you actually face the problems that those researchers faced. You face the issues that they had. How did they deal with the amount of data that they had? How they deal with the complexity of the model that they were dealing with? How they made sure of building a system that okay, the model will take a lot of time to be trained, and I have to be prepared for that. And if I have a bug on my code, I shouldn't lose everything that I built until this point because okay, it broke in the middle of the training. I lost all of the training. The whole training would take 5 days. It broke on day three, and so I lost 3 days of training. Ooh,
uh,
that's
yeah.
bad. And this is actually something that you would learn if you try to replicate their paper. So like I believe that's why I believe that you just need to read enough to be able to get started and going out there and doing something because then the need to learn more will come naturally and anything else I believe anything else that you are trying to do you are kind of procrastinating in that sense because it's more comfortable to
Yeah.
keep reading
Yeah.
than actually having to do something.
So essentially, you are following the same Facebook mindset of move fast and break things even for learning, right?
Yeah, one could say so. One could say so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.